you, Wendy. So I put this presentation together because having worked with a lot of Agile teams over the years, when people go towards Agile, and I ask them how it is right now and how well Agile is going, they often say, well, it's just chaos. And only about a third of the respondents actually are enjoying Agile. So I want to give you a few brief statistics that I've collected about Agile. Then we'll discuss Agile and Risk. That is that when people move to Agile from a previous approach, like Waterfall, they don't eliminate risk, they just transfer risk with a new set of risks. Agile intent. This means that if you were to take away all of the nomenclature and the wording and the labeling of Scrum and Agile practices, what would you end up with? What is the core of being Agile, regardless of the particular approach and labeling you give it? Why do Agile teams end up in chaos? There are many causes behind chaos, but I'm going to narrow in on a few of them and two particular ones. And then a note in the presentation that it doesn't have to be like this. There are some fairly simple improvements that could be made to Agile teams to both get out of chaos and continue to be out of chaos. So I want to kind of give you a picture of where people get into trouble now, and then also suggestions of how to improve upon that going forward. And then a summary at the end about what we discovered. So I'm getting feedback on the comment about mic not very loud. I've tried that, cutting out. If it happens particularly badly, then let me know and I'll have to flip over to a cell phone. So when I work with audiences, typically this data is from a project management and some of my audience. Over the last few years, I've actually polled about 500 people, and only about a third of them are actually enjoying the Agile experience. So I asked the question, put up your hand to the audience, if Agile is going great with respect to deadlines, budget, and quality expectations being routinely met. And when I asked that question, about 3 out of 10 people put up their hand. Sometimes it's only 1 out of 10 or 10%. And that means chronically, 7 out of 10, 70%, maybe 80% of people doing the Agile are not having a good time. They've gone to Agile, but it's not really buying them anything or buying them as much as they would like in the organization. So the question is, what is going on and why do people have this problem? And how can they get more out of their Agile practices? So when teams move from Agile, from a Waterfall or a previous methodology to Agile, they don't eliminate risk. What they do, as per that seesaw, the picture, they transfer risk. They've gone from one set of risks or problems, Waterfall or whatever they were using before, to a new set. Okay, they didn't eliminate risk. So maybe the Agile methodology or Scrum was a little oversold, or maybe not implemented with extra practices to mitigate the new risks that arise. So, for example, a group using Waterfall, their risks have been, or the problems they experienced in the end, is that they built to a spec. The spec may be too big or ambiguous, so they're guessing. There's little feedback along the way if they're doing more of a strict Waterfall versus some interaction there. And they find out at the end they built the wrong thing. It's either too slow, too large, too cumbersome, doesn't meet a need. But the risk is they're going to find out the feedback when it's too late. So people then hop to Agile to have a better life. But if you do Agile, if you take the Scrum guide and just do Agile as defined, with no extra bells and whistles, then people start to code immediately. So they kind of feel good about that, but there are a few requirements. There's probably no design. because the design emerges over time. They may find that the pieces in the end don't work together. So every sprint built a nice piece of software, but when you look at them end to end, they don't actually work together, or the user can't use all the pieces for their own intent. Okay? It would be like building a vehicle. The steering wheel, the brakes, and the chairs work fine, but if you put them all together and try to go 100 miles, things fall apart, or things are not working together correctly. The requirements are discovered every 2 weeks. So when people have a particularly poorly defined backlog, and I'll give you some examples of both good and bad backlogs in a few minutes. And then people discover the new requirements every 2 weeks when they get their feedback after the demo. And if that goes on for too long, there's no end in sight. The big boss, the customer, they want a particular set of features and delivered by a particular time. And the best the team comes up with is, well, we discovered the new requirement. Let's go work on that and then see how we're doing. So the customers and management don't ask enough good questions, and they allow agile teams just to kind of limber along bit by bit over every 2 weeks. And there's no end in sight, and people do not know when it will be finished. So in this example, kind of rudimentary example, people have moved from a waterfall, one set of risks and problems, to agile, a second set, a different set of risks and problems. But they actually didn't eliminate the problems that were risks that they had before. So in the presentation, I want to suggest a couple of examples of how people can then both move to agile and actually get some of the benefits too by mitigating those new risks. So the biggest problem about moving to agile is that the people move to agile, and it's really just a framework. The house on the left there is just a framework of a house, a frame, and I've labeled the pieces of the framework by the major tasks in a sprint implementation of agile. But if you were to purchase that house on the left, then you get wet, if it rained, or you get cold if it's going to be cold. You can't cook anything, there's nowhere to sit down. It is just a framework. It's cheap, but it's limited. So when people move to Agile Scrum, and they, for example, go to YouTube for their education, or they go to the Scrum Guide, they're getting a good framework, but they're not getting a complete solution. Back maybe 15, 20 years ago, when Agile came out, it was sold as a framework, and people back then used to tell us, you need to add stuff to it. It's just a framework. You need to add engineering practices and other practices to it to make it more robust. But I think over the last maybe...
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.